Behind the Glass. We're sponsored by Jiffy Lube. We're hanging out with you till noon. The Kings beat the hell out of the Mavs last night, 122-98. And something that has kind of been apparent for a while to me really solidified itself last night when I watched the Kings play as well as they did. I think the Kings ceiling, at least this year, I don't want to do a big picture thing right now. But to me, the Kings ceiling this year rises and falls with Keegan.
It's funny because it always has.
And it just like when he's aggressive offensively, and he only took 10 shots last night. It's not like, oh my God, he had 40 and this is, but when he is assertive and making shots and confidently taking threes the way he was last night, they're harder to beat.
Yeah.
They are just and it's tough to quantify or to articulate if you don't. To anybody listening to this probably watches a lot of Kings, but if you don't, when this guy makes threes, when your other starter makes threes, your team is better. It's like, yeah, duh. But for the Kings, with the amount of scoring they have and with the type of scoring they have, when Keegan is that tertiary option or that fourth option on offense, it's just like, oh, like there's a pop. It's just a little bit different. There's a little more force that they play with. When Keegan's getting downhill, when he's knocking down threes, they're just a little bit better basketball team. They're a tier better to me. I think this is about playing maybe fringe playoff team normally.
Okay.
When Keegan's cooking, they're a bona fide playoff team to me.
Yeah, I totally feel that. And my 6 quick thoughts I wrote, I can't quit on Keegan's potential.
Don't spoil the bit. 11 o'clock, 6 o'clock.
Well, yeah, but
no, I know. Go ahead.
But that's the deal, though. Like, I know, like you talked about it the other day. You're like, I think this is just who he is. And then he has a streak of games, and you're like, I don't want that to be who he is. Like, you see the potential, and like we talked about, like the gardening metaphor and all that stuff. Like, I don't think the Kings have done right by him. I don't think that they put him in the best position to succeed.
I'd agree.
And I think that right now, Doug Christie is looking at Keegan Murray as his way out, as his way to make this team much better. There's only really one way. DeMar DeRozan is who he is. He's going to have really, really good nights. He's going to have somewhat good nights that are, close to really good nights. He's not going to have horrible nights. Like the 1 0 for 7, like fourth quarter and overtime was an aberration. That's not who he is, right? You look at Zach LaVine, once he's solidified in what he does, you're like, okay, there are going to be nights where he goes for 40 and there are going to be nights where he goes for 18, but realistically, you're going to get 22 to 24 a night. You look at Domantas Sabonis and you can just write in and pen, 20, 14, and 6. The one variable that you have with this team, and like that's outside of Keon Ellis, and like we can talk about like the blow up games that Keon has, but realistically, Keon Ellis is a player who averages, if you get 8 points out of him, that's kind of standard. If you get 12 points out of him, okay. But every once in a while, he has these flyer games that are just outlandish, right?
Yeah, it's the night in, night out production that matters.
Yeah, exactly. And that's not to take away from what he does on the defensive end or anything else. The only way out of this mess for the Kings, to me, has always been Keegan Murray. He's the guy who's averaging 12 points a game, but could easily, in the right situation, average 20. Like that's the guy that if you're going to find a way to take a step from being what you talked about, a fringe playoff team or a play-in team, a 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 team, if you're going to take some leap, it's because he does what, I don't know, like look around the league, what Trey Murphy's done to take the big leap, or what Jalen Williams did to take the big leap. And I don't think it's out of the realm of possibility. But while one team has a young player that's ready to ascend and his front office goes out and gets a defensive-minded center and Alex Caruso to play in the backcourt, another defensive-minded guy to allow a player like Jalen Williams to excel, the other team goes out and gets a guy who averaged over 20 shots a game last season. And so you're not like feeding him the right way. You're not nurturing a young player the right way. And we're starting to see that maybe the coach is saying, hey, look, this is our guy. You guys need to back up. You guys need to give a little of yourself to let this guy be good. Or maybe Keegan's just like, wait a sec, I'm eligible for an extension this summer? What am I doing? Like, give me the ball.
Yeah.
Like, you're hoping that that's what's happening, right? That he's demanding something, but I don't know. Like, overall, Keegan is your pathway to success, future success. And the Kings need to embrace that as a franchise and do everything in their power to raise him up. And sometimes that means clearing out some of the other players so this guy can become what he's going to become.
26-9 all time when Keegan scores 20 or more, not including the playoffs.
Yeah.
26-9.
Yeah.
Like, that's it, man. He offers something a little bit different. And last night, again, I think he only took 10 shots, but it's all right. Let me make sure that's right. Yeah. 10 shots, 4 of 8 from 3, but it's the assertiveness that he plays with that was different. I remembered Keegan Murray playing last night, and there are too many nights where you look at the box score after the game and you're like, oh yeah, that's right, Keegan played 36 minutes. I remember nothing that he did. Or Keegan played 36 minutes. He had 8 points in the first quarter and finished with 12. Like, that's where I would love to see more of what we saw last night. He only played 24.5 minutes and had 18 points, 5 boards, 3 assists.
Yeah, that's the biggest thing. He played 25 minutes and was phenomenal. He ran a plus 29. He started the game defending Kyrie, like what we thought he would.
Yep.
I mean, talk about your power forward started the game defending a player who was having an all-NBA season at point guard. The best ball handler in the NBA at 6'1" or whatever Kyrie is. Your 6'8" power forward defended him. And that tells you everything you need to know about Keegan Murray as a player, but also the construction of your team.
No doubt.
Like, that's a problem. It's a good problem that he's able to go out there and defend him. It's a bad problem because that's not the way. You shouldn't just say, hey, power forward, I need you to go get their point guard. It's like, well, what about all these other dudes? Crazy. Like, we don't care. You go get him. That's just wild.
Man.